It's time to pause for peace with me, Pastor Jule. Welcome. I hope you have had a fabulous week and a great restorative weekend. This podcast coming to you on Labor Day weekend, and hopefully you have something relaxing and refreshing to be about in these days that lie ahead. For me, a super cool thing that happened in the last week was that John Philip Newell's new book, The Great Search, Turning to Earth and Soul in the Quest for Healing and Home, was released. And I'm a big lover of John Philip Newell, this amazing Celtic Christian teacher who really is a leading voice in our time for a way of understanding Christianity that is true to a Celtic expression of the world, which is an expression of the world that sees all things as connected, that actually has been an alternative voice to a mainline and orthodox way of thinking about Christianity since Christianity's inception, pretty much early on in those first couple of centuries of followers of the way expanding to different places in the world. And there was this way in which Christianity, in that path of understanding Christ as one coming to show us this way of love, Christianity fit really well with the Celtic understanding of the world that honors all of life, that reveres one another. And so equality and egalitarian relationship was a part of the Celtic mind, which is exactly what people were seeing and hearing and reading in the early stories and the early messages that were being written down about Jesus the Christ. That here was this one who was coming in some ways to show us the best of ourselves, and to also kind of challenge ways of understanding the world that would keep us separated and divided, and focusing more on living in very strict ways of being as opposed to living wide open-hearted, ready to live compassion and truly allow that like energy of love that is in us to actually be manifest in all the world. I've talked about it before, and John Philip speaks once again about it in The Great Search, that the understanding in Celtic Christianity of Jesus, this amazing teacher and master, and one who spoke of this way and lived this way of the heart, the understanding of Jesus and of the Christ figure in a Celtic Christian worldview is to see Jesus as the recapitulation of us all. In other words, to understand Jesus as the resounder of the truth of humankind. That God is about this intermingling, flesh and spirit coming together. We might speak of it as flesh and soul, body and spirit, body and soul, however we might think about it. But that God is in this business of incarnation, that love itself seeks to be made manifest in a physical form. And so we as human beings are shown in Jesus the Christ that we are the physical manifestation of love itself, of God, that we are human beings here to live as the human one, to live true to our original blessedness. And so Jesus has a primary focus in the Celtic world and in the Celtic Christian mind, because Jesus is the one who shows us who we really are, who lives in a way that can be our salvation, and that it can show us Jesus' life, his death, his living again, can show us the best of how we can really be. In The Great Search, I'm just a little bit into it, but John Philip Newell is speaking of this way of the inward path arising at this time in the history of humankind. There's a way that so many of us are yearning for something more, yearning for connection. And so many of us are seeing that the world is in a really difficult state. There are so many ways our environment itself is being destroyed, and at a rate that really is no longer sustainable. And there are ways that we are beginning to wake up to the truth of how we have lived, to the truth of the fragility of the world in which we live, and also to the power of this earth that will continue whether or not humankind is able to continue living on this earth. And so there's a way in which the Great Search reminds us that we are in this movement of human history, of searching, of seeking, and of being in touch with those longings and those yearnings within. This actually, John Philip Newell claims, is what incarnation is all about. It is the path of what we might call in theological circles, the path of immanence, the path of being present here. And John Philip probably would go so far as to say that the path of trying to escape the world, the path of transcending outside of the body and outside of the mess of this earth is actually quite irresponsible at this point in human history. And it's time that we go within for the benefit of it all. So of course, if you know me at all, you know I would be spurred on by this encouragement that we daily do the work to get ourselves centered, to know what is going on within our hearts, and to be able to live from that place. Hard choices that we might need to be about each day, ways that we might need to make some very difficult steps, but ways that we can continue to do so with great compassion and nurturance for one another and deep and abiding love. This is the way that we seek when we return daily to the love that resides within our heart, the spiritual eye of perception, the heart space that is in all human beings. So today, in honor of the Great Search, and remembering too that here we are in this Labor Day time, and for many people it feels like summer is long over, and for those of us in Middle Tennessee, we are once again gearing up for a hot one. It has been really quite persisting heat and summer, and so realizing though that for many Labor Day feels like a coming to a close, it seems a good time in our pause for peace today to go inside and to listen for what we've experienced in these past 3 months. Again, recognizing the summer is not quite over. The fall equinox does not come for a few more weeks, but it still feels like a closing time for many of us, and that we will be kind of gearing hard into the fall season in these upcoming days and weeks. And things with schools have been launched, but truly this is a time where around the country we are once again in what you might call the regular, ordinary time of life, and also a time of beauty turning soon as we move from these hot summer days and long summer nights to the beautiful fall that is to come, the transition that's coming with autumn. And so as we go inside today and take a little pause for peace, I'm I'm going to invite us to do so with that question in mind, just reflecting upon what has taken place in these past months, these months of summer. And we set some intentions as summer began, so perhaps you can recall what of those intentions has come to fruition. How have I actually lived any of those intentions that I had set, and how might those actually be bearing fruit in my life now? So I'm going to invite you to get quiet wherever you are right now. If you could take a deep breath, slowly release it. We breathe all the way down deep from our belly and we slowly release. In my experience, the moment I take that deep breath, I am immediately recentered in self. So let's take another deep breath. With that intention, we are getting ourselves back centered, awakening the heart space once again, that we will be in touch with this spiritual eye of perception that resides within us. Let's take a deep breath again. Slowly release. If you're feeling kind of scattered all over the place, wiggle your feet into the ground, or if you're laying down somewhere, just wiggle your toes and become aware that somewhere under you is this glorious earth, the soil that holds the potential for all growth. Let's take another deep breath. I don't want this to be a time of a laundry list in our brain. I want this to be a time when we are focusing on what's happening in our hearts. And so let's do a little taking stock. See if your heart can remind you of the intentions that you set for these summer days. And then if you could just allow your heart to reveal to you moments when that was actually taking place. So if you set an intention to have a summer of pleasure, then let's ask for moments of pleasure that took place this summer to reawaken in your imagination. We do this through our heart center. So we might actually see, where did this intention come to fruition? In June, July, August. What did we experience that's impacting what's going on in our heart center now? Surely we all have experienced a wide array of life happenings. Perhaps we've responded in different ways to each day that has come. Challenges that have arisen these summer months. Adventures that have been a part of these summer months. We listen and we take stock of what is arising now in the space of our hearts. So we ask what we have experienced, of what we have wanted for this summer. with all that might be bumping around within us, for what we've experienced in these past months. Let's find a way somehow to offer gratitude to God. And perhaps we can do so by looking for how God truly has been present in the ordinary days of our lives, in the grand adventures of this summer, in the challenges, in the joys of this summer. How has God truly been present? And if that sounds like an incredibly confusing question, I might want to think about it like this. How has love truly been manifest in the midst of your summer days? When I listen through my heart space in this time of quiet, I like to listen, inviting images to come, inviting colors to arise. Perhaps even scents might be recognized, or sounds might arise. So in my own heart, I am experiencing these moments of the summer when I have seen things like grace, like graciousness and generosity, and that like flow of just pure joy and excitement. I'm kind of marveling at the ways I've seen connection taking place. For me, I give thanks to God for those things. I see that as God at work in my days and mysteriously working things out that I never could imagine. See what you notice. And if nothing else, then look for times when you experience love. Like no strings attached kind of love, but just love of true welcome, of full acceptance, perhaps of forgiveness, perhaps of passion, the ways that you have experienced the connection with any other creature, maybe even just a tree. But all of that for me is the way that love has been present and acting, how God has been at work. So we take just a minute longer. And when we're ready, let's give one last testament to gratitude, to this beautiful heart space that is even allowing us to track such things, that has revealed to us what we have needed to see today. One more moment for gratitude, and a deep breath at the same time would be great. And really slowly, one more deep breath. And that slow release. And one more deep breath. With that slow release. And because we have spent time inside, immanent, in our heart space, when we prepare to open our eyes once again, I invite us to do so with the intention of looking out at the world through the heart space, through the love that we have encountered and the love that we can track because of this love that is God that lives in all of us. Even if we're ignorant of it or we are unconscious, we don't recognize it all the time, or we deny it, or we do things that get in the way of it, God, who is love, lives in all of us. So one last time, I want you to tap your heels into the ground or wiggle your fingers to get yourself present right here. And when you're ready, if you'll open your eyes, looking out through the eyes of love. Well, here we go. A new moon is coming soon. Fall is on the way. And all that has taken place for us in these last 3 months of summer, hopefully we can savor that and take that as strength into the season of harvest. Summer is a time for growth, and autumn is a time for harvest, a releasing of what no longer serves, and a returning to earth, what needs to be returned so that new can grow once again in the cycle of the year and in the cycle of all of our lives. Thanks so much for joining me today. I invite you to write down anything that came today. Take a note, make a memo, however you can do that, a voice memo, so that you can see how love has been working in your life all through this summer. What intentions you set and how they actually came into being throughout the days of your summer. Blessings for the week ahead. I hope you have a wonderful Labor Day. And if you're listening to this later in the week, I hope it was an amazing day and have an incredible experience of the week that lies ahead. Blessings. See you again next time.